2 years ago I did here in like an exhibition totally different from this, and I'm also not totally a specialist on this topic, of course, downstairs, but yeah, more also in photography and how you make exhibitions, how you communicate them, and that is maybe also quite interesting for this exhibition. Like, shall we go downstairs or yeah? Yeah, this is obviously, as you will see later, quite an important topic, of course, at this moment, and and I think even, you know, like more than anywhere else, maybe also for Italy, quite a very important topic, I think, because I mean I'm from Amsterdam, but yeah, when I see also, maybe things have changed now a little bit, but years ago when you saw like Italian television or in Italian companies, how women are kind of portrayed, or I think that's quite different from Holland, I think, especially on televisions or on media, how they were shown. And this is then a project by Franziska, Gilli, and who is the photographer, and Bachmann, who did the text and more the editorial part. So in a way, it's not so much like purely a photography exhibition, which for here is also maybe different, but yeah, it's more also a research, editorial. It has much more depth than purely a photography exhibition. So it's also in a way more a manifest exhibition, I would call it, like where, you know, there's a lot of interactive things. You can there's a lot of sound made that you can when you can scan it, interviews, text that is done, and yeah, I think they worked on about 7 chapters for this topic, and I think, I mean, one of the most important things is, because you also said that this will travel quite a lot. I mean, for an exhibition like this, I think it's very important that it is just shown in a lot of places, and I mean, because most of all, I think that's maybe also showing this, that most of all it's also a problem of the stereotypes and how stereotypical women are often portrayed in media or in companies or in advertising and those kind of things, and yeah, I think it's very nice that they together kind of in a long, I don't know how long they worked on this, but 2
or 3 years.
Yeah, so
until 2020, also a lockdown project is inside Soviet.
Yeah, so it's also more like a discovery and investigation, maybe when you walk through it yourself, than purely a photography artist project. It's totally a mix of that. Also the book that is made is not like purely a photography book or purely a reading book, but more a crossover between these things. And I think that is actually maybe even more interesting than only making photographs and have a photo exhibition. You know, like it's quite, this maybe also puts this exhibition also puts the finger on the spot where it hurts and where it needs to be, maybe. As I said, I did like 7 chapters, and this is more all kinds of reactions and statements on the fact that every 2 or 3 days one woman is killed, like in Italy. Yeah, I think that for a topic like this, in a way, everybody needs to talk about that. You know, like often it's also channeled that only women can say something about this topic, but I think it should be totally mixed. You know, like that. That is. I think we also in the company I work, we also work for an organization called Women Inc. And that is also, they do campaigns and also to change this stereotypical behavior. Because for instance, women in their working life are still earning 300,000 euro less than men in their whole working life. And yeah, like on all kinds of levels, you need to kind of push these things. I think that is also one layer, that on the flags that you see, that is the female organization, how it's called?
Non una di meno.
Yeah, one is...
No, one less.
Not one less, yeah. Yeah, this is of course all related also to the book, I think, where there's more of the stories and more of the subjects in there. So this is about equal rights and equal duties, but I think like how it's also kind of an interactive exhibition, because yeah, here you find, for instance, here you see like a stereotypical man on this side, where you can scan, and then you hear the interviews with them, and this I also quite like, which is just a constant feed of opinions and you know, like good and bad and mixed all together. Like it's also how it changes and sometimes comes back again, and I really like this one as an image. I think it's very nice that they just, I've never seen that, but it's quite nice that you print out a picture of a puzzle and then you cut it out yourself to make the puzzle again. It's funny, I think, that most of the a lot of this and a lot of is also kind of a propaganda, how it's seeded through the times, also by media and by imagery and by the funny. I think that the funny thing is that we are looking at a lot of photographs in this exhibition, but the medium of photography has also, you know, like misformed a lot of the image towards a woman, like in the bad way, like especially in advertising, or in the book there's also a whole chapter on quite bad advertising, and yeah, that could have been also in here, or like, but then it's quite nice that the book has also shines the light on it from a lot of different angles. I mean, I was quite shocked that maybe until 10 years ago that you saw, how was that Berlusconi network called? I don't know.
Yes.
What's the name of it? Mediaset. I mean, in Holland, that would absolutely not be possible. I mean, in Holland, there's also still a lot to do regarding women's rights, and also in companies that you know, yeah, now they have made that more into a quotum, that at least there's much more women in leading roles also. And but that is also again very strange, because the weird thing is that when women are in a leading role in a company, then it's almost, sometimes they also complain about it themselves, because then they are in a position where they have to do even more, because it's like they have to work more and push more, and because they are in that position, and underneath them they are kind of pushing that, and yeah, so it's a constant battle also, I think, in that sense. But I think regarding images, it's also yeah, I find that always interesting, because there's also a famous quote that says like, you don't take a photograph, you make a photograph. And you must also know that with, when you're a picture editor, like how in a way, yeah, a picture is also framed, how it's, how in press offices, many of those photographers go to the same spot and almost make the same pictures. There's a quite a nice book. It's called "Seeing is Believing," and yeah, and it's by Errol Morris. But it's all about how the image appears in the media, yeah? Yeah, often. How is it possible to make an image which is not kind of judging or pushing the viewer in a different... Also with the camera, like, you know, do you photograph it like this or a little bit like this, which is a little bit patronizing, or like this, which is more heroic. But that's also, for instance, in the contemporary art world, I think also it's very stereotypical, like how things often are. If you go to like a big art fair, you know, like it's always the beautiful, pretty girl that is sitting behind a laptop with a pile of catalogs in a clean space with a small desk and an empty glass of champagne next to her, and yeah, it's very. Yeah, there's a lot of hierarchy in that field as well. Huh? Yeah, my wife has been always in kind of boards of foundations or companies, or but still, when she works hard, it's still like, and people hear that we have 3 children, they still say like, yeah, how can you manage that? You know, like. It's such a, but it's in a way it's a very patronizing remark, you know, like, because, yeah, how do you manage it, you know, like, because you have also children, and, but I think also my wife also, because she's quite feministic, but she also says like, okay, because there's also a lot of women when they have like a baby, for instance, which is a big thing, like in a working life, because often, yeah, their work kind of has to be cut in half in days, or but a lot has also to do with the woman herself, you know, who is, okay, if you want to go for your work and your children, you can also easily do both equally as good, you know, like she always worked full time, I always worked full time, or kind of full time, and we never had a nanny, for instance. We had sometimes somebody helping, but never like somebody in the house. So it's easy to, or not easy, but you know, you can manage. But often I have seen also many women also in my company that work there, that at a certain moment they give up, like after the second child, and then often they stay for 6 or 7 years, take care of the children, and then when they want to go back into the working market again, yeah, they fall into a gigantic deep hole, of course, because yeah, they have totally missed the connection then, which yeah, like everybody, like a society should also care for that, you know, like. If you see, like in Scandinavian countries, how that is arranged, it's unbelievable, you know, like as a husband, you can also get like a year maternity leave, you know, 1 year. And you get like paid a certain percentage of your, quite a high percentage of your income. And when you formalize that, then slowly things are going to be more equal. And I find it ridiculous when a father or somebody has, also at my work, when somebody has got their first child, and after 3 days he comes back at work again. I mean, what? Well, I didn't work after 3 days. You know, you're just in the clouds still. Huh? Yeah, we are also right in the moment of time where these things. I mean, we are. If you see what happened in the last few years with the whole Me Too movement, Black Lives Matter, the pandemic came over it, and then things are very focused at the moment on certain topics, which is very good. I mean, it has also. It's almost from the out, as a spectator, it's almost bizarre to see, and especially also with Black Lives Matter, when you see like at the moment a lot is changing, maybe only from the outside or maybe only in visualization. If you see like in musea or in companies or on advertising, for instance in Holland, if you look on the TV, in the advertising, I mean when I kind of started, I slowly put, or I always used a lot of different nationalities in the ads, but now you see this done everywhere, like it's almost, you see like families in the advertising that are almost not existing, like there are so many nationalities in one family, but it's also very, I think it's also very good for something. It's like it will make it will make also a change after some time, but we are the bizarre thing. We are in the middle of that moment now. I had quite a weird experience last year with in Holland, where I was doing artwork in a festival, and this was like the festival was with social topics, so you could choose like a social topic to work on, and I worked on the fact that women and men, but people in general, that they are also with their phone making selfies and having all these applications to modify their lips or their eyebrows, or often they use that image also to go to a cosmetic surgery and say like, okay, this is how I want it, and so I found this interesting also, how people photograph themselves and how they modify. It's almost become more normal than an exception at the moment, and girls and boys, but it's predominantly girls who do this, which is also strange, of course, because why do they have to do this? So that's also about perception and about how a society slowly pushes women into that this is an ideal way of looking. And so what I did, I had like a skate park where I had the opportunity to make the work in, very big, like 2,000 square meters, like indoor. And what I did, I collected 800 images of people that did totally modifications for real on their surgery and cosmetic surgery, and then. So then I made like an algorithm where everything was mixed in. So in the end there were like 60 portraits of non-existing people, but they were like, you clearly saw plastic surgery. And then I printed it on the floor of the skate park. So every portrait was 4 by 4 meters, so very large. And then the installation was for 6 weeks, so that slowly there would be a natural aging again on the faces, when the skaters would go over this. And so the whole topic was to discuss like self-acceptance, like, do I accept myself like this, or do I need to do this? And also like, why don't you accept the wrinkle anymore? And I worked for a year on this, but then in a few days' time there was like an enormous storm online, because people saw this installation, just like a picture of it or a short film, but never read the intentions of it, and it was framed totally. So I was like framed like a total women hater, and I was like killed, and I got like hundreds of mails of people accusing me, and But that is also bizarre to, in the end it kind of calmed down, and but it's bizarre to see how precious everything is, and how, and also like that the media is at the moment in such a, it's so boiling, and often also when you have like a negative story, is much more picked up than a positive story, and so this was for me kind of a, yeah, also very kind of interesting experience, to put it mild. But I never saw that coming, you know, like because I honestly made the work about this topic, and of course there was an interaction, and of course skaters went over faces, and of course like in the mix of this algorithm, most of the faces looked female, and a lot of them also quite androgyne, and but yeah, in the end it was all about, the discussion was about cancel culture and about that, which is a shame, but you see how fast these things can go, like, but in the end I think in this case was also a shame, because there was like a petition who said like they wanted to take away the work, and the two girls who started this petition, in time of 2 months, they never wanted to be in a discussion with me, or with the festival, or with, they just wanted to stay anonymous, and yeah, so then it also was kind of not very satisfying in the end, because there were only losers in that sense, and but yeah, you see how quickly that goes, and of course there's not a hair on my head that would hurt a woman or whatever, you know, but you see how quickly that is kind of framed. I do this for a long time. I never, I mean, I also never saw this coming, because there were hundreds of people who saw the idea already for a whole year, and also and more men, more women than men, because in the institutions, and that, but and also yeah, I was like for several days I was just at home, like watching National Geographic, like under a blanket. I thought like I'm just. But of course, we immediately tried to be in discussion with the people who kind of were heavily against this, but that never happened. So yeah.